She hit it again. My mailbox. Shattered across the driveway like confetti. Third time this month, same silver SUV, same driver. The HOA president, Karen Whitmore. Every time she'd laugh and say, maybe don't put it so close to the curb. So this time, I built one she'd never forget. The morning air in Willow Creek was as calm as a photograph. Birds sang over neat lawns, sprinklers hissed rhythmically, and every mailbox stood proudly identical. White posts, brass numbers, HOA-approved perfection. Tom Parker liked it that way. After 20 years working nights at a warehouse, he'd retired early, bought this quiet home, and planned to live out his days in peace. He was a quiet man with simple habits. Trimming hedges, sipping coffee on his porch, waving to the mailman. Peace, that's all he wanted. But in every peaceful neighborhood, there's one person who thrives on control. And in Willow Creek, that person was Karen Whitmore, HOA president, self-declared enforcer of order, and driver of a shiny silver SUV that was far louder than her sense of reason. Karen loved to fine people for things she didn't like. Grass too tall, mailbox paint faded, non-standard garden gnome. And when Tom planted tulips she deemed too bright, she left a notice taped to his door. Violation of HOA Aesthetic Code 14B. Tom never argued. He smiled, nodded, and fixed whatever she complained about. Because arguing with Karen was like arguing with thunder. Loud, pointless, and guaranteed to ruin your afternoon. Until the day he found his mailbox lying face down in the grass, snapped clean at the base. At first, he thought it was a delivery truck. Maybe an accident. But when he checked his doorbell camera, the truth was clear as daylight. Karen's SUV reversing too fast, slamming the post, then driving off like nothing happened. When he asked her about it later, she smiled that smug, half-polite grin. Maybe don't put it so close to the curb next time. Tom chuckled quietly, but in his eyes peace had cracked. He replaced the mailbox that same weekend. A sturdy wooden post, fresh coat of paint, perfectly straight. The kind of fix that makes a man feel like everything's back to normal. But normal didn't last long in Karen's world. A week later, bang. Tom was sipping his coffee when he heard the sound. That deep, splintering crunch that makes your stomach drop. He walked outside, mug still in hand, and there it was again, his mailbox lying flat. The post cracked, the box dented. He didn't even need to check the footage. He already knew. This time, the SUV didn't even stop. She drove right over the curb, clipped it clean, and kept going like she was late for a manicure. Tom filed a complaint with the HOA. They reviewed it and dismissed it. Accidents happen, the letter said. We can't hold a resident accountable for minor property damage. Minor. He replaced it again out of pocket. He thought maybe, just maybe, it was done. Then, on a windy Thursday, he heard the sound again. Another crunch. He stepped outside and saw the same thing. Same tire marks. Same broken post. Same Karen, parking across the street, pretending not to notice. That night, Tom sat at his desk, sipping black coffee and watching the footage again and again. Every time she hit it, his jaw tightened a little more. Every laugh in the background, every shrug from the HOA rep replayed in his mind like an echo of mockery. Peace wasn't working. For the first time in his life, Tom didn't want quiet. He wanted justice, the kind that doesn't come with words. Tom wasn't angry, he was focused. That's what made him dangerous. He started with research. Local codes, HOA bylaws, city ordinances. Every detail of what made a compliant mailbox. Turns out, there were no rules against reinforcing one. As long as it was technically decorative and securely installed. Securely installed. Tom grinned. He made a trip to the hardware store, picked up concrete mix, a steel core post, and a few heavy-duty bolts. At the checkout, the clerk squinted. Building a bunker? Something like that, Tom said with a smile. For the next few days, he worked quietly early mornings before sunrise. He poured a deep concrete base, solid enough to anchor a fence. Inside the hollow wooden frame, he slid the steel post and filled it flush. The outside looked ordinary. Same paint, same brass numbers, same flowers at the base. But underneath, It was a tank in disguise. Neighbors walked by, curious. "Upgrading the mailbox again, Tom?" "You could say that," he'd reply with a grin. He even added a small flower bed around it, making it look softer, almost friendly. But as he finished tightening the last bolt, he whispered, "Let's see how close she parks this time." It happened 2 nights later. The moon hung low, crickets chirped, streetlights flickered, and the neighborhood was quiet except for the distant hum of an approaching engine. Tom sat on his porch, pretending to read, but his eyes were fixed on the corner where that silver SUV always turned too sharp. And right on cue, there she was, Karen, speeding down the lane, coffee in one hand, phone in the other. The tires dipped too close. The SUV swerved just a bit, and then, bang. The impact echoed through the cul-de-sac like a gunshot. Tom didn't even flinch. He lowered his book, took one long sip of his coffee, and walked to the curb. Karen's SUV sat tilted, front bumper torn, wheel bent inward, steam hissing from under the hood. The once smug face behind the wheel now twisted in shock. You sabotaged me," she yelled, stepping out. "That's illegal." Tom looked at the mailbox. Perfectly upright, not even a scratch. He ran a finger along the edge, like a proud craftsman admiring his work. "No, ma'am," he said calmly. "Just reinforced." Within minutes, the flashing lights arrived. 2 police cruisers, an officer taking statements, a tow truck rumbling up the street. Karen stormed toward them, waving her arms. "He built a trap. That mailbox is a weapon." The officer turned to Tom. "Sir, what's your side of the story?" Tom handed him a folder printed HOA bylaws, city permit approval, and a USB stick. "Here's the footage. Same driver. Same spot. 3 times. The officer nodded slowly, reviewing the footage on his dash tablet. The smirk on his face said it all. "Looks like she hit it again. But this time, it hit back." Karen's voice grew shrill. "This is HOA property. I'll have your membership revoked." But another officer stepped in. "Ma'am, this is his private property. And from what we can see, you're at fault." Her SUV was totaled, the mailbox untouched. By morning, the story had spread across the neighborhood. Photos, jokes, and one too many mailbox memes flooded the community chat. Tom became an overnight legend. Even the mailman gave him a salute. "Strongest mailbox in the county," he joked. The next HOA meeting was packed. Neighbors filled the room, buzzing like an audience before a show. Karen sat at the head table, arms crossed, sunglasses hiding the bruise on her pride. She slammed a folder on the table. "Effective immediately, reinforced mailboxes will be banned." Murmurs rippled through the room. Tom raised his hand. "Calm, respectful, dangerous." "Question," he said. "Are you banning safety or accountability?" A chuckle rippled from the back row. Karen glared. "This isn't about accountability." "Sure sounds like it," Tom replied. "Because if it were, you'd be replacing the mailboxes you've broken." More laughter. A few claps. The HOA board members looked at each other, uncertain. Finally, one member cleared his throat. "The motion to ban reinforced mailboxes is rejected." Karen froze, her reign of HOA terror undone in seconds. By the end of the meeting, she'd quietly announced her resignation, citing stress. Weeks passed. The neighborhood returned to normal, quieter, friendlier. Kids rode bikes again. People waved. And right there, at the end of Maple Drive, stood Tom's legendary mailbox. Unshaken, unbroken, proud. Every morning, as he picked up his mail, he'd pat the side of it like an old friend. "Built to last," he'd whisper. Neighbors still stopped by to take photos. One even added it to Google Maps as the unbreakable mailbox. Tom just smiled. "Sometimes," he said, "peace isn't about avoiding conflict. It's about standing firm, even if it's made of concrete." The camera pans out. The street is calm again. Birds sing, until one voice in the distance mutters, "Hey, Tom, you think it could stop a truck?" Tom smiles. Only one way to find out. Fade out.